I've always loved the quiet of the night. There's a special charm in being awake while the world sleeps. Ever since my dear Elise died, rest became a rare luxury I just couldn't afford. I would lie in bed, restless and turning all night, my eyes red as dawn crept through my curtains. I dragged myself out of bed like a mindless wanderer. Even melatonin lost its power over time. My body had grown immune. I'm surprised they didn't go overboard with 10 pills every night. Herbal teas that promise sleep are nothing but a waste of cash, and those strict routines, switch off all gadgets, avoid any artificial glow 30 minutes before bed, don't eat an hour prior, maybe even read a book, might work for some, but never for me. I even tried my own way of counting, picturing endless worlds where Elise still lived. I'd lie awake, grinning foolishly at my cracked ceiling, my mind inventing vivid images. At times, I'd catch a shadow in the corner of my room. A brief glimpse I longed to believe was truly her. I yearned to think she had come back just to say one last proper goodbye, even though logic warned me that the lost never return, and a part of me clung to the idea that what's gone might never fully disappear. Those endless nights and strange visions weighed on my mind, and I even thought of ending it all. Maybe I'd join her in the next world. But thankfully, my practical side won, and I sought help from a kind therapist. At first, I suspected she was just being polite, but she truly listened when I explained my troubles. When I told her about my sleep problems, she suggested a night shift job. It never occurred to me that in a bustling metropolis there were plenty of overnight gigs. The idea of sleeping by day seemed like the perfect fix. I sent out applications for every graveyard shift I could find online. Some places turned me down, saying my work at a local market wasn't enough, and a few interviews ended with no reply. Only one job was willing to give a chance to an inexperienced guy, a warehouse position at a well-known supermarket nearby. The pay wasn't bad, and I figured I needed the experience. My new boss even mentioned that 2 others were starting the same night, which eased my nerves a bit. I've always felt jittery before new beginnings. A job, college, even the gym, and my mind would spin countless scenarios. By the time I arrived at the warehouse parking lot, I'd already imagined nearly 200 possible mishaps. The building, bathed in pale moonlight, had a gray metal exterior with a row of light posts along the curb, as if trying to mimic daylight. The thought of all that electricity made my head throb. Maybe it was the 3rd cup of bitter coffee I had downed. I glanced at my faulty radio, which showed 11:45, and noticed my heart racing as midnight neared. Pulling down my sun visor, I caught a glimpse of my wide, dilated eyes in the mirror. Damn, I'd had too much coffee. They might think I'm on drugs and fire me. My swirling thoughts were suddenly interrupted by a knock at the window. I jumped so hard I nearly leaped out of my own skin, my head bumping against the car roof. From my left, I heard soft laughter, and when I looked, a woman with a warm, smiling face stared back at me. She had rich caramel eyes full of joy, and her thick brows were perfectly shaped. She wore a fitted yellow polo from a well-known brand, in sharp contrast to my baggy, worn one. Bracelets jingled on her wrist as she waved, and I couldn't help but wonder how someone so lovely ended up on the streets. Rolling down my window, I gave her a shy, awkward smile. I mumbled, "Sorry, I don't have any cash. It's literally my first day on the job." She tilted her head as if checking if I was talking to someone else, then grinned and said, "Just a little change would do, kind sir." She giggled, and my cheeks burned as I stammered an apology. I scratched the back of my head and even noted how perfect her yellow polo looked. Damn, I felt foolish. Being mistaken for a vagrant was hardly a compliment. This was definitely not a scenario I'd expected on my ride here. She balanced gracefully on a concrete planter as I leaned against my car, unsure where to put my hands. I joked that while those without homes might be free in spirit, they had no place to truly settle down. With a dramatic spin like a pirate scanning the horizon, she said they could live anywhere as long as they weren't kicked out. Then she hopped down and locked eyes with me, asking, "Hey, are you Troy or Ethan?" After a moment, she smiled and said, "Troy, right? Let's get moving." I mumbled a reply, still puzzled by her mention of Ethan, as she teased, "You just don't seem like an Ethan." We soon approached huge metal doors, while our shadows danced on the pavement. 2 cameras watched us, their red lights blinking steadily. The woman next to me waved at one of them and shouted, "Hi, we're the new hires. I'm Mia, and this is Leo." The heavy door clicked open, and Mia skipped ahead, pushing it with all her might before beckoning me forward. I murmured a quick thanks as the door shut behind us. Inside, the warehouse blazed with light from countless fluorescent bulbs buzzing like a swarm of invisible insects. Tall, unshadowed shelves lined the vast interior like a labyrinth. 2 workers moved through the maze, hauling electric jacks loaded with pallets, while the beeping of forklifts drowned out the soft intercom music. No one paid us any mind except a large, bald man striding toward us with a clipboard clutched under his arm, his fitted yellow polo stretched over bulging muscles. In a deep, gruff tone, he said, "Go ahead and clock in, then follow me." He pointed to a wall-mounted tablet near the entrance. Mia dashed over and punched in her employee number from a car, and they called us the newbies. I punched in mine from memory, and we trailed our boss as he led us through the maze-like aisles. He informed us, "You 2 will work in the far corner helping with jack setup since you haven't passed the electric jack test yet." Damn, it's rough. We reached the far end where a tall, slender man with a sharp haircut was busy stacking boxes. He motioned to 2 empty pallets beside a rugged fellow and said, "Here you go." He added, "If you have any questions, call me on the intercom," pointing to a phone mounted on the wall behind piles of boxes. He continued, "Restrooms are at the far left, and if you go, never, ever turn off the lights." Mia, standing stiffly like a cadet, answered, "Got it, sir," and I nodded in agreement. Then he said, "Off you go," and we moved to our assigned pallets. Mia grabbed the middle one while I took the far right pallet, away from the rugged fellow who was rapidly stocking boxes. After only a few minutes, my back began to ache. I glanced over at Mia and the rugged guy who I assumed was Ethan. They worked quickly. Mia arranged her pallet neatly with bigger boxes at the bottom and smaller ones on top, while Ethan valued speed over order, already on his second pallet. I tried to copy Mia's neat approach when my own pallet was whisked away by someone with an electric jack. Attempting small talk, I asked, "Ethan, right?" He grunted right, without even looking up. Mia then introduced herself, saying, "Nice to meet you. I'm Mia and this is Leo." A quick look between them made it clear. Mia's eyes said all the unspoken words about my clumsiness. I managed a reassuring smile, knowing exactly what she meant. Time seemed to crawl as I finished stacking my second pallet. Suddenly I felt an urgent need to pee, the extra coffee making matters worse. I told Mia, "Hold on, I need a quick bathroom break. If the bus stops, let them know I'm out for a minute." Mia warned, "And remember, don't ever turn off the lights." Before I could reply, Ethan interjected, "You won't, right?" I looked at him in confusion, and he just shrugged, keeping up his playful banter. After a moment, he finally glanced up from his pallet, revealing a deep scar across his right eye. He straightened up, towering at least 6 feet 3 inches, a giant compared to my 5 feet 9 inches. He added, curiosity might just get you in trouble, even if you're not a cat. I nodded, thinking, got it, while his face turned serious as he went back to work. I sensed someone behind me, and knowing it was the boss from Mia's smirk, I turned around. The foreman glared down at me with a permanently stern look, as if he was always angry. He barked, "Restroom, huh?" Then corrected himself, "Bathroom, actually." I mumbled, "Yeah, that's right," and stepped aside as his stare sent chills down my spine. I stepped into a narrow, brightly lit corridor at the far end of the building, where there was just one unisex bathroom. A strange choice for such a large place. I twisted the knob and entered a room that was the cleanest I'd ever seen. The floor, laid out like a chessboard, gleamed as if freshly polished, and two mirrors offered a crystal-clear image of myself, as if I were in high definition. It felt less like a reflection and more like another version of me staring back. I quickly did my business and washed my hands. Even the soap dispensers worked perfectly, which amazed me. On my way out, I instinctively reached for the light switch but stopped, remembering that this wasn't my own home and I didn't worry about the power bill. A thought struck me. If they didn't want anyone turning off the lights, why not just remove the switch altogether? It seemed like common sense, though perhaps they had their reasons. I shrugged off the idea and moved toward the door. Suddenly, the door swung open with a loud bang echoing through the small room, and I heard heavy footsteps approaching. I looked up to see Ethan storming in, grabbing my shirt and twisting it. He snarled, "You think you're funny, huh, smartass?" as the door slammed shut behind him. The tearing sound of my polo's stitching filled the room, and anger surged through me. I grabbed his wrist and dug my nails in. He released his grip with a grunt. Using my other hand, I twisted his palm back, and he squirmed as he warned, "Don't move or I'll break it with my free hand." He swung a wild, sloppy haymaker, and I ducked just in time, letting go of his wrist for a split second. The punch aimed for his liver, and he grunted as he struggled to stay upright. I grabbed his wrist again, twisting it further, warning, "Don't test me, I'll break it." He let out a yelp, fumbling for an escape, but there was none. In a frantic move, he reached for the light switch and managed to flick it, yet the lights stubbornly stayed on. The fluorescent bulbs began buzzing loudly, like a boiling kettle, and I released his wrist to cover my ears, trying to block out the deafening noise. The lights started flickering in a rhythm that almost sounded like mocking laughter. I couldn't fathom how lights could seem to laugh at us. The screeching grew even louder, and I felt paralyzed. Desperately, I wanted to switch off the lights, but I knew that if I let go of my grip, I might lose my hearing forever. I groaned and yelled, "Help!" though I couldn't tell if it was just me or if Ethan was also calling out. The noise drowned out my voice, and my eyes darted around in panic. Then I froze, my gaze fixed on the mirror. The reflection was warping and rippling, as if it were a portal from a strange game. A soft voice called out, not just to me but to both of us, from within the shifting glass. I sensed a presence there, a voice promising to end all my pain, both past and present. I hesitated, torn between fear and the lure of an escape. In that moment, I thought, yes, I want it, as the mirror's call overwhelmed the screeching. I clutched my ears, feeling as though I were stuck in deep quicksand, my body stiff and unresponsive. The only way forward was to shuffle slowly, so I did, waddling toward the mirror. Standing before it, it was just my reflection and me in the world. Then my image rippled and transformed into someone else, a gentle face with clear sky-blue eyes and soft arched brows, smiling just as she always did. She wore a subtle touch of heavy eyeliner, a remnant of past tears, and her smile held a kindness that made it hard to be angry with her. I remembered how adorable she looked when she cried. She was so tender. For a moment, I felt I didn't deserve a stubborn man like myself. Instinctively, I reached out to touch her cheek, but then I heard faint voices calling my name. I wasn't in the bathroom anymore. I was suddenly in an open field of flowers with her, named Vina, standing closer than ever. All logic vanished in that instant, replaced by the undeniable truth that Vina was priceless. My fingers hovered within an inch of her cheek, and she blushed, her lips parting as if recalling the way I used to caress her hair. Before I could react further, I felt a heavy grip on my shoulder. Two strong hands clamped down like a vice, yanking me back. I fell hard, my head banging against the floor and my vision blurred. Lying on the cold floor, I stared up at a flat ceiling, utterly confused. This wasn't my apartment, nor was it my familiar ceiling. Blood-red faces and faint voices swirled around me. A bald man waved frantically while scarred arms shielded my eyes. I tried to focus on them, but everything was a blur. I heard someone murmur, "Mia," and a faint voice replied, "Mia, your new co-worker," as a blood-stained smile appeared. They lifted my body gently onto a thin, soft bed, while a mysterious figure, introducing herself as Mia, looked down with caring eyes. I managed a weak smile as my vision dimmed once again. When I awoke, I found myself under blinding lights in a sterile ward. 4 still figures surrounded me, and I thought, this isn't a hospital. Soft voices whispered my name a few times. Mia said, "He's awake," confirming that I had survived some kind of test. Then a deep voice declared, "Keep him, keep me," as if speaking to someone else. The voice continued, "Well, I suppose he has proven himself worthy," prompting Mia to smile in quiet celebration. Mia then looked down at me with gentle eyes and said, "Things are about to get wild now." I murmured, "Can I call you Gus?" Mia glanced back at the boss, who nodded in agreement. He announced, "We're fighting a war against a mirror realm, and you're a part of it now." Mia grinned, and I managed a shaky, "Oh man, I need some sleep," which made both Gus and Mia burst into a contagious laugh. But soon Gus's smile faded as he said, "No, seriously, we need your help." And my eyes rolled back as darkness overtook me once more. And that, in a nutshell, is how I came to battle for our reality against the mirror realm. Mia was right. Things escalated quickly, and while we're on a break from fighting now, I figured I might as well share our story. I'll never truly forget that conflict, a fight I doubt I'll ever completely win. Fighting helps me hold back the flood of emotions, though they remain bottled up and ready to burst at any moment. Mia has been a great support, and I'm truly thankful for her and for our boss, Gus. You might wonder what happened to Ethan. Well, he got drawn into the mirror, swallowed by whatever lured him in. I can't really blame him. Vina nearly tricked me too, and I dread the day I must face her again. But with Gus, Mia, and the rest of our team by my side, I feel we have a fighting chance. Until next time, steer clear of mirrors in the dark. They might be more dangerous than they seem. And that's my story of how I began fighting for our world against a realm of twisted reflections.